A bigger attempt to show the practicality of long-term human occupation of planetary conditions includes figuring out how to feed humans in space. But scientists have attempted to cultivate plants and soils that normally do not support life before. But will their efforts bear them fruit? Let's find out. If that grabbed your attention, you're in luck because we're going to inform you today whether or not scientists will soon be producing food in space so that humans may survive somewhere other than Earth. But you must be thinking if this is even a possibility to even begin working on it. Let's find out. Keep watching the video as we unravel the mystery to your questions. Let's just establish that we are all foodies at heart, and without food, we just cannot go with our days. This is exactly why scientists are working so hard to make our dream come true: food in space. Doesn't that sound like a dream come true, finally? Through the middle of the 20th century, as permanent human habitation of Antarctica increased, so did humankind's push towards growing food in space, and more especially, on the moon. As you might think, neither plants nor people nor the majority of living things fare well in space, with the possible exception of tardigrades, those tiny bear-like creatures. A daisy would die right away if you poked it out of the International Space Station and exposed it to space's vacuum. A freeze-dried flower would be left behind when the water in its cells raced out and vanished like vapor. As they spread out from their seeds in quest of nutrition, plants on Earth develop roots in a filigree-like pattern. For a very long time, scientists believed that gravity was partly to blame for the movements. Beginning in the 1960s, researchers working for agencies like NASA started to consider the inhospitable, unforgiving, and alien Antarctic as a useful comparison for space travel, where countries might test out protocols and technologies, including plant cultivation. This curiosity persisted into the 20th century, but it wasn't until the 2000s that some Antarctic agricultural research started to focus primarily on space and space only. A bigger endeavor to show the practicality of long-term human occupation of interplanetary conditions includes figuring out how to feed humans in space. Scientists said on May 12, 2022, that they had grown plants using lunar dirt that had been collected during the Apollo moon missions. But how does this help them achieve their goal of growing food in space in today's time? Many people associate the term astronaut food with dehydrated applesauce and freeze-dried ice cream that astronauts transport into space from Earth. But in the relatively near future, astronauts might be eating wholesome food that is grown in deep space. The development of food production systems that enable astronauts to grow their own food on extended deep space trips is being urged by researchers, scientists, and other inventors. The difficulty arises as space agencies concentrate their efforts on manned lunar exploration. According to Matt Bamsey, Senior Project Manager at the Canadian Space Agency, one of the main challenges in providing astronauts with fresh food is that missions don't have limitless power supply for growing produce, and they can't produce a lot of waste either. Enjoying the video? What 3 foods would you want to grow in space? While you ponder over this thought, do subscribe to our channel by hitting the bell icon to get notified instantly about all our content. Today's astronauts are able to bring all the food they'll need on board because they typically spend several weeks or months in space at most. However, space trips might be much prolonged in the future. It will take 2 years to get to Mars, which is where NASA wants to go, and then return again. Foods with a shelf life of 3 to 5 years will need to be carried by astronauts. They must begin cultivating their own food as well. NASA aims to use space farms to grow fruits and vegetables in climate-controlled, artificially illuminated greenhouses that use hydroponic technology rather than traditional soil. Soybeans, peanuts, spinach, cabbage, lettuce, and rice are examples of possible crops. Soybeans and wheat berries can both be grown and used to make pasta and bread. The astronauts would then use a tiny kitchen to turn these ingredients into home-cooked meals. According to NASA, a typical Martian dinner menu may include a chocolate peanut butter soy milk shake, wheat spaghetti with tomato sauce, and a spinach and tomato crouton salad. The question here is, will the food produced in space even taste good? There's no doubt that space food has advanced significantly since the days when astronauts had to squeeze it out of a tube. But does it compare well to food found on Earth? Bill Daley of the Chicago Tribune's food reviewer team put it to the test. He had a decidedly mixed opinion. 2 sloppy rectangles of flesh so uniform in shape it was as if they had been spat from a machine, said Daley of the beef fajitas. However, the dessert made of dried peaches received higher marks. It featured a strong flavor and a pleasing chewy texture. NASA is looking for ways to add plants that can be cultivated in space or on other planets to astronauts' diets. Compared to prepared food, seeds are lighter and more spacious. In order to learn how to produce plants and vegetables in simulated space settings, scientists at NASA's Kennedy Space Center have been conducting experiments. These include the Moon and Mars, as well as the International Space Station's microgravity environment and other planets with lower gravity than Earth. At Kennedy, researchers test various lighting and temperature combinations to determine which conditions are most conducive to plant growth. In order to determine which plants will grow in low Earth orbit, they also recreate the conditions aboard the ISS. NASA's ultimate goal is to develop techniques like hydroponics and aeroponics that can grow plants with the least amount of soil feasible. Aeroponics includes growing plants in a misted air atmosphere, while hydroponics involves supplying water and nutrients to plant roots using liquid solutions. Both of these techniques eliminate the requirement for excessive soil, which is extremely heavy and consumes valuable space on a rocket. But what about the water conditions? It is a fact that water reacts differently in different conditions and because of changes in gravity levels. In environments with low gravity, water does behave differently. It clumps in strange ways that it wouldn't on Earth, making it challenging to hydrate plants with roots. However, the NASA Veggie Project has been successful in growing vegetables on the International Space Station. Astronauts are now able to grow and consume plants on the ISS thanks to that study. In the initial test, clay pillows were used in place of soil to cultivate red romaine lettuce. As space exploration develops and missions lengthen, astronauts will need creative ways to feed themselves in a safe and nourishing manner. Future crews embarking on lengthy journeys away from Earth will find it useful to learn how plants thrive in space and on other planets. In addition to being vital for nutrition, adding vegetables and greens to a packed diet may be beneficial for stressed-out astronauts who are far from their families. Many astronauts have said, "I assumed that I'd miss the cheeseburger or pizza the most when I came back, but what I actually wanted was a fresh salad," or anything to that effect. Fresh food will not only give astronauts the vital nourishment their bodies need, but it may also improve team morale. When an astronaut is alone and distant from home, scientists think that eating fresh food may help them feel better mentally. It's pleasant to raise plants purely for their own purpose. However, according to research, gardening is calming and healthy for one's mental health. Future deep space travelers will require all the distractions they can find, as they would be confined for years to a small spacecraft with the same individuals. Flowers and plants that are produced solely for decoration rather than for human sustenance may provide astronauts in remote locations a sense of home. Because manufactured food is simple to eat and convenient to bring into space, astronauts consume a lot of it. Sadly, manufactured meals can have low levels of important micronutrients like potassium or vitamin K. If the food is stored for a long period, some vitamins may degrade. If a person does not consume a balanced diet, they may experience health problems. Astronauts may stay healthier on lengthy missions if they grow fresh food in space to supplement the processed food they bring with them. Additionally, it would increase their variety too. That's all for today's video. A quick think tank for all you foodies out there. What is the one food that you would greatly miss if you were to go live in space for a while? Do let us know in the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you soon with a new video.